UMass Lowell Hockey Riverhawks with a couple of games this weekend. On the road Friday night at the University of New Hampshire, then back home at the Tsongas Center on Saturday to take on UMass Amherst. Joining us now, the head coach of the Riverhawks, Norm Bazin. And Norm, I guess simply, this week, unlike recent weeks, preparing for two opponents, does that make the week of preparation a little more difficult, a little more challenging in any way?
Oh, there's no question. I think when you're preparing for two opponents, you look for similarities between the two so you can practice some of those habits, and it's going to be interesting having to prepare for those two opponents, mostly two teams with vastly different styles.
When you and I have talked at times in analyzing games, you've said you want to see more urgency earlier. If I can for a moment, how does one define urgency in a hockey sense?
Well, I think for us, it's jump, it's scoring first, it's having some physicality early on. I think it's going to come down to playing some guys who want to start the game off with a flurry.
Last weekend at Maine, in a couple of ways, was impressive. First off, obviously, winning two in a tough building. But in this case, what I'm talking about is the first night we scored first, we never trailed in the hockey game. We showed we could play with the lead. The second night, we trailed through two periods down by a couple of goals, and this team responded, showing a resilience in the third period. I've got to think there are a lot of things to like about those two different performances last weekend.
Yeah, I think both games last weekend were very different. I think the BU game was very different than those also. I think we found ways to win, and that's a good character trait of a good team. So hopefully that can continue here in the future.
We go up to the University of New Hampshire Friday night. I suppose maybe this is a silly question. Does it matter which night you're on the road on a weekend?
No, I never gave that much thought. I think it's going to be healthy for us to start off at UNH because it's a very different building. If there's any, I guess, positive out of playing on the road, I'd rather play on the big sheet on Friday and then come back to the smaller sheet on Saturday. I think it's easier to go from an Olympic ice sheet to an NHL sheet than it is the opposite, especially on the second night when you might have a little bit less legs. But no, it's going to be a tremendous challenge. I think that's going to be the biggest sheet we've played on. Mankato is 200 by 90, whereas UNH is a full Olympic, which is 200 by 100, I believe. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge for a hockey club.
Is it a different game on the big ice, and do you tell your team it's a different game on the big ice?
Well, it is different in the sense that you have more room outside the dots. But if you take the measurements from the face-off circles to the net, it's the same distance as the Tsongas is in the Whittemore. So I think the difference between the Whittemore than other rinks is you have so much more room on the outside, but you can't get too preoccupied by playing on the outside. At some point you got to get to the graded area to score.
I know some of the talk this past weekend had been about the performance of a freshman like Scott Wilson, but what stuck with me is the contributions of the upperclassmen. Matt Ferreira, just terrific hockey game on Friday night, and Riley Wetmore, 3-goal weekend, 2 huge goals in the third period. The guys who have the experience, the guys who are supposed to provide the leadership appear to be doing exactly that.
Oh, you mentioned some good names there. I thought Riley had a very, very strong weekend. I thought Val had a strong weekend. Came back with a great performance on Saturday after having an average game on Friday. But he responded well, and that's a big key. Ferreira's been a very strong hockey player all season long. He's been a solid contributor, but more importantly than that, he's been very strong away from the puck, so he's been a leader through and through.
All right, big weekend for the Riverhawks again Friday night at the University of New Hampshire. Then Saturday back home at the Tsongas Center, a 7 o'clock start, UMass Amherst in town. Coach, we thank you very much for your time and good luck.
Thank you, Bob.